Hey, now that we got Bambi off the crane, step one, let's get the controller working, wired for the crane. Man, that's hard. And then we'll hook it to the truck. I think backwards. I'm putting a nice simple plug on the bottom because these wires go through, and let's say you're not paying attention, you're swinging it around and they get all twisted up. You can just unplug it, spin them back, and plug it back in. And using these, the crimps that actually have the heat shrink built into them, so a little better, but still too lazy to solder. So I want to extend those wires for the controller. It's all 10 gauge, and it is damn expensive. So instead of buying a bunch of different colors, I bought one color and a little black heat shrink will mark my negatives. Yeah, I'll have to buy some loom for that in town, but I think that's good. I can just hook jumper cables up to test it. So it didn't work at first. I got my positive and negative mixed up, but use some lube. But it works. It's not too bad and up. Definitely better with lube, but oh well. That's pretty neat. Still a little noisy, but it'll work itself in. So next step, mount this master switch probably in here, and then from power from the front to here, and then I can tie the crane into it, but I can also run a little jumper up to this battery, and then I can jump the welder or vice versa with the turn of a knob, since it's already bolted and grounded to the truck. There, trip to town, got that loomed up. See? Yeah. So noisy going down. And then also tied in that guy, so when that's turned on, it's throwing power here and the crane, but be nice to be able to jump back and forth. So it was a little bit of a fight to get all four of those wires wedged in here, but it works. Yeah, I guess I just have to weld that outrigger on here, and maybe down the road I'll add one to the other side, but I think one will be enough for the little odd jobs I do with it. I don't know what that crank weighs, 400 pounds, and picked it up all the way out there, and the truck didn't lean at all. And I went about how I picked it. The crank's no good anyway, so don't worry about it. You hear that? Well, I can't hear nothing. That time of year. First time you light it, she always makes some noises. But back from the sledding trip, time to get some work done. I really need to finish this welding truck project up or get moving on it. But I'm going to want some heat for that. Recap what's left. Weld the jack on still. Rehook up my starter wires. They keep pulling out. So I might try and Loctite the switch in position because it's turning and then pulling the wires out. And I got to fix a little hole in the exhaust. Then if I'm going to do this carb and intake, that'll be the time. And I think that's all I'm going to do on it for the time being. At least then it could be, air compressor. They mounted an air compressor on it. Just an electric one to plug into the welder. So that start switch goes in that hole, but there's nothing to stop it from spinning. So brown one goes up there. That's for the starter. And while screwing with it, I pulled that black one out of the middle. So I got these heat shrink ones that shouldn't pull out as easy. Caught that tightened up as good as I can so it stays where it's supposed to. Didn't work, I was all sad, but I guess you should put the battery back in. All right. Oh, way better. We got that dealt with. I was swinging away on it, and the truck wouldn't move at all. I know someone's going to say, you're going to hit your knee on that nub. If you hit your knee on that, you're going to hit your dumbass head on the crane too. So thought on the side there'll be a chance if I did drive off with it, you'd see it in the mirror, hopefully. Hey, don't have a disaster down here. We just It's broke off, so I'll add a piece somewhere back there into it and done deal. Easy. I lucked out where it broke off, the little stub going in the muffler, it was all seized in there, so instead of trying to fight it out, I just moved the clamp over the new brake and it's all sealed up. Lifted that crank out of the way since I'm limited for space, and let's see how we can mount this hitch. I just got that tack welded in place with the MIG. I think I'm going to stick weld it, but then I'm going to smoke the place out and be done for the day, so I might tinker a little more before I weld that right up. Okay, quick plan. Weld that across there somehow, do 2 little angles that way to connect this to this, and we'll just mount this whole thing. I'll rubber mount it just because I have them, but mount this whole thing up there and tie it into that tank. Okay, I ditched the rubber idea because to be running this, I'll be running the welder, so everything's going to vibrate anyways. But I just have it all lightly tacked up there. But plug it in. Yeah, it isn't going to be an issue. I'll just weld her all up. I think I'll have to do a little support from the edge out. Yeah. All right, just got to pick up some plumbing for it, but yeah. Welded that on, then hammered it around and tied it all in perfectly for a random piece of scrap metal. And I welded the hitch all on. Not that you can really see any bit. I'm back on the welding truck. I think it's gonna be the last day. Something sits in the shop too long, I just quit working on it. So don't think I'm gonna do that intake and 4-barrel on it. Always do it another time. What I am gonna do is motor mounts, because I'm pretty sure the one on the other side is broke off. They're pretty basic little things, but this rubber will rip apart. And they have this steel as a safety so it can't get away, but it sure lifts up when you step on it. I think they're like $8 a piece. They're cheap. We got the passenger side out. It's usually the driver's side that's wrecked, so it's only gonna get worse, but you can see how it's ripping away. Pretty beat up compared to the new one. Got the other one out. You can see why the engine, every time you step on it, it'd rip the gear shifter out of your hand. Whole engine lifting up. But got them in. They are way harder on a two-wheel drive to do. Mainly the driver's side, just with the steering arms. Four-wheel drives are way nicer. But they're in there. Just dropping the oil on her now. It's really nice that the oil filter is right above the exhaust. Yeah, real nice. And no surprise, a truck like this doesn't really get annual. It doesn't stay up on oil changes. So you might as well buy the good filter for it, because it's usually a once-a-year thing. Doesn't put a lot of K on either, though, but they're all hard. And just cause some of the zinc additive stuff for, since it's still a flat tab. Well, it's a hydraulic lifter, but not a roller lifter cam. And then I have a pail of 20-year-old 530 that got given to me. It works just fine. Doesn't even burn it. You know, some people say, why don't I run diesels? As I just finished my $50 oil change. I'm going to throw this new $12 air filter in. And she's maintenanced up for another year. I just don't see the point. Affordable winter fronts too. Oh, and when I was in town, I grabbed some fittings, hooked the compressor up to the tanks. So that's neat. And I ran that compressor setup off this welder lots. It just was bouncing around on the deck on the tank. So this is better, much better. Here you go. Whenever you finish a project that has anything to do with lights, gotta pull it out back and see how it works. Actually, gotta show up the toolbox light too, you know? That should be good though.